We must cherish these values, argue for them, defend them, fight for them robustly, because there is no shortage of people who want to undermine them through extremism and terrorism. Attacks in recent years, such as in Westminster, Manchester Arena, London Bridge, Finsbury Park, Fishmongers Hall, Forbury Gardens, the murders of MPs Joe Cox and Sir David Amess have taken lives in murderous circumstances in the name of extremist ideology. Extremist movements, both violent and non-violent, seek to radicalise others into joining their mission. This threatens our security and our freedom. These movements are growing in significance and complexity, whether it's Islamism or the extreme right wing. We must never be indifferent about extremist or grievance-driven rhetoric, which creates a permissive environment for terrorist and other illegal activity to take place. Non-violent extremism is the climate within which violence is cultivated. Our work with former extremists of different stripes makes it clear that ideology is of central importance. So the ideas and the ideals driving terrorist movements must be tackled. That's why I was so horrified by the atrocious overreaction to a Quran being scuffed in a school in Wakefield and by events in Batley, where a teacher who showed pupils a picture of Muhammad was hounded out. Anti-blasphemy protests outside, whether it's outside schools or cinemas, are, in my view, a threat to national security. Everything must be done to prevent such intimidation. That a teacher remains in hiding in Batley is unacceptable. We do not have blasphemy laws, as I reminded everybody earlier this year, and we cannot accept their de facto enforcement by mob intimidation. Radical anti-blasphemy clerics need a robust response, and that's why I've tasked officials to develop policy options across government so that we get this sensitive issue absolutely right. Contrary to received wisdom on the left, the UK is not a racist, bigoted society. We are the precise opposite, an incredibly cohesive and successful multiracial, multi-faith, multicultural democracy. But we have to protect and renew this constantly. Nor can we be complacent about foreign actors. Russia, China, and Iran have all shown themselves to be all too willing to exploit and destabilise our country. The most pressing national security priority is now the threat from Russia to European security. But China poses an epoch-defining and systemic challenge. The remainder of the UK domestic terrorist threat is largely driven by extreme right-wing terrorism, which amounts to approximately 22% of attacks since 2018, about a quarter of the MI5 caseload, and 28% of those in custody for terrorism-connected offences. It's not the same in scale or nature as Islamism. These ideologies support the use of violence to further the protection or preservation of race, identity, culture, or country from a perceived existential threat. Unlike Islamist terrorist groups, extreme right-wing terrorists are not typically organised into formal groups with leadership hierarchies and territorial ambitions, but informal online communities which facilitate international links. These terrorist narratives are also exploited by hostile state actors, such as Russia and Iran, which are seeking to promote divisive and polarising narratives in the West. This is likely to increase in the future.